This is the Digital Marketing Experts Podcast episode. No, why am I trying to sound like a radio announcer? Experts in the Wire, episode 46. Andy Crestodina.
I think that PDFs have no place on websites. Social media icons in the header, that's stupid. Don't put social media icons in your header. The visitors will never come back.
Yeah.
Right? So I've got the email links should never be on a website. I think the word solutions is just a dumb word to use in marketing. The only people who say solutions are people who are selling something.
Yeah.
It's a long word and it's a vague word. Good words are short and specific. Solutions is long and vague. Like it's just a dumb, you should never use that word in your marketing. Content done well, you can double traffic every year. Oh, you get all your business from referrals? You don't care about search. Okay, let's see who does care. How many people every day are looking for this? Oh, who's ranking for that? Who's getting the visitor? Who's got the chance to convert? It's not you. In this context, you are irrelevant. And that's the word.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 46 of Experts on the Wire. Those clips were our guest today, Andy Crestodina from Orbit Media. Andy has helped them grow their traffic 112% in the last year over year. And they get about 70,000 visits a month from that traffic and from that content. He's going to teach us all about the actual tips, tools, strategies, tactics that he has used to help Orbit Media. Orbit Media is a company in which he co-founded and is also the strategic director, and he's a speaker and author. There's a lot of new tips in there that I had actually never heard before. I want to give a quick shout out to an Experts listener, Sean O'Rourke, on Twitter at SEAN_OROURKE. Thank you for the shout out. Sean said, Experts in the Wire Marketing Podcast by Dan Shore has reached go back and listen from beginning status. Sean, thanks so much. It sounds like you are a new listener to the show. Welcome, and thank you for the shout out. You can, of course, go to evolvingseo.com/wire, where you can sign up on the email list, the form on the right-hand side. You will get the links, tools, resources right in your inbox when the new shows post. A little bit of antics for me, just trying out some email marketing things and some copywriting things, and you can write back to me as well, and I will reply to you. So without further ado, let's get into episode 46 of Experts on the Wire. Hey everyone, I'm very excited to be on the line with Andy Crestodina. Andy, how are you today?
I'm good, Dan. I'm excited to talk to you.
Likewise, we were just chatting before and I said I had a confession for you. And that is when Jonathan Butt, a mutual sort of acquaintance of ours, I was on his podcast, when he introduced us, I wrote back to you as if I had never, quote, met you before. But then I remembered 2 years ago, you talked to me and some other musicians and put together a piece of content that was all of these marketers with videos of themselves performing music. And so I apologize. I did not remember that and wrote back as if we were just meeting. But I do remember that post now, and that was a lot of fun. So let me just ask, what sparked the idea to do a post like that?
That, you got to experiment sometimes, branch out, try something different. If you don't put new stuff and random things into the system, then you never get analytics on new ideas and see what worked. So it was basically an outreach idea. It was mostly a fun idea. Posts like that have mostly just a networking benefit. So it was totally off topic. It was, my content marketing mission statement is to publish helpful, useful advice on content marketing, analytics, and web design. But that one, I had just come across a bunch of marketers that were musicians and thought I would put something together. And when I asked around, I came up with your name and reached out. And yeah, that was a fun thing. It had video, right? It had video from all you guys.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was cool. I wish more people did stuff like that. But I want to step back and ask, so tell me a little bit about Orbit Media and what you guys do there.
Mm-hmm. Orbit is a Chicago-based web design company. We started in 2001. We're a team of 38 people. We're at around just under 5 million in revenue. We are totally inbound and content marketing based. There's no advertising. It's all based on referrals and search and inbound inquiries. And I'm one of the two co-founders. We've been doing this a very, very long time. We're not an agency. We don't do marketing for clients, but we teach marketing every day through our content and the podcast and the book and conversations like these. So yeah, basically Chicago web design.
Excellent. And what's your kind of day-to-day and your role there?
I am split about 60-40 marketing and sales. I don't do as much management as I used to because I have a CEO. Mm-hmm. So but I outsourced that executive role because I kind of stink at that. Like, it's not my specialty at all.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of teaching, writing, speaking. I do a lot of content promotion. I'm very active in the blog and on my website and other websites. I travel around. I speak at a lot of conferences. My goal is to just unload as much helpful, useful information on the internet as I can, knowing that that's basically how it all comes back around and indirectly and directly generates leads.
Absolutely. I've experienced that myself for sure. So, and how did you personally get your start into the world of web design and web marketing? Mm-hmm.
Well, I was an IT recruiter in the 90s, so I'm Gen X, I'm 44. So I out of college, had an irrelevant degree. I majored in Mandarin Chinese, lived in China, came back, got a job as a recruiter. I was an IT recruiter. Pretty boring, mostly like a sales job. Like, I wanted to make stuff. I wanted to create things. I wanted a portfolio. I wanted to point at that thing and say, yeah, I made that. And I really wanted to combine art and science and technology and creativity, but I had no resume for it. So there was no one that was going to hire me for it. So it turns out it's easier to start a company than to get a job. You just have to find a client that will take a small risk instead of a company that'll take a big risk, So my partner had already been building websites. My friend from high school and roommate from college, he'd been building websites since the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. So basically joined him. And in the early days, I was the designer and he was the programmer, and just kept taking off hats and delegating and hiring and getting smarter and doing a better job of promotion and service. And here we are. And
I'm sorry, who's your partner, by the way?
It would be weird if you'd ever met or heard of him. He's like the back of the house guy. His name is Barrett Lombardo. And Barrett is an old, very close friend. And he and I were like comic book nerds and gamers from, the 80s. He got an art degree while I got that Mandarin degree. And now he's basically like a super technical guy. He runs the web services, which is the only thing we do. Mm-hmm. So he's sort of in the kitchen and I'm sort of I'm like a waiter and he's like a cook. But now that it's scaled up, there's, a project management team and a team of strategists and a team of developers and a team of designers, a team of support people. But yeah, I'm glad you asked. No one ever asked about him. Barrett Lombardo.
Yeah, it's funny. There's so many people behind the scenes in the tech world and the marketing world that you've just never heard of or never seen, but they're really good at what they do. They're just not out there in the public eye.
Yeah, I mean, the classic startup has two people, a hacker and a hustler. I'm the hustler, but it's like Jobs and Wozniak. You've got to have the resourceful person, the product developer, the service provider, the person who solves the big problem. So he's definitely the hacker, and it's awesome.
And the other one you mentioned in that video was Hewlett Packard. We do our research here.
That's right. Dan, I'm impressed. Packard, hacker and hustler. Exactly right.
Yeah, I like that example. I never would have thought of that too, by the way. But I want to move and talk about Orbit Media. And so you've been doing content marketing for them for a while. And this is the part that's most curious to me and I think would be most fascinating and useful to the listeners when I was researching about you online. And I'm in SEMrush. And starting about 2011, I'm seeing some really nice growth in organic traffic to orbitmedia.com. And there's some wonkiness in SEMrush in there. Sometimes their data is a little funny. Like I see a giant spike in the beginning of 2014 and then a drop. And then I see a nice big rise again for this year. So I don't know how much of that is totally accurate. But can you speak to that? Has there been a really good overall growth trend in organic traffic for you?
Oh, for sure. And if you want to get more accurate about it, I'd be happy to share a screenshot going back to any day range from our analytics, and you can put that right in the show notes.
We would love that. The listeners love real numbers where they can say, wow, this situation, they grew from X to X. So that'd be fantastic.
Yep. So I'm going to pull it up now, and I'll tell you where I am like year over year based on just this last, let's take 1 month, for example. Mm-hmm. Today is November 11th, so I'll go October 10th to November 10th, compared 2016 compared to 2015. Mm-hmm. I am at 112% growth in sessions, visits, 113% growth in visitors. Mm-hmm. And that is just totally based on just organic, we don't do any paid. So that's 100% organic, combined with a little bit of lift in social, a little bit of lift in email, maybe some branded and direct, but yeah, like 90% of that's going to be organic.
Yeah, and quick aside, I would be remiss here that we're recording this on November 11th in the United States to just give a quick shout out and thanks to all of the people that serve for us here in the U.S. on Veterans Day. So
that's right.
Just got to
put it out there. Yeah, that's. I was just hanging out with some guys right over here, and Remembrance Day in Canada. I was hanging out with a Canadian guy this morning, so for sure. Yep. Huge props. Thank you, servicemen and women.
Absolutely. Even though this episode will post in a few weeks, still going to mention, and it's the day, we got to mention it. Mm-hmm. But so back to your growth, that's great. I mean, obviously that verifies even better, I think, according to what I see here in SEMrush. So take us back to the beginning. So first of all, was there some sort of inflection point or something that happened in 2011? Is that when you started working on content marketing, or take us back to the beginning of your process and how that all looked?
Sure. So started to become obsessed with search in 2001. Started to pay more attention to indicating relevance and basically putting site design by Orbit Media, or putting Chicago web design in the footer of client websites. Made it to the top for Chicago web design in maybe 2005, and then really started to see growth. But adapted along with the search engines by began to publish a lot in 2007, I began writing, and right away learned that I needed to combine email marketing and the blog, and then learned quickly thereafter that the idea of content was going to be the future for search marketing for us. Mm-hmm. So by 2008 and by 2009, I was writing a lot more, and I was writing for other websites. So I was pitching content, not a classic like guest posting, link building strategy, as much networking as links. I was really just trying to make friends, and I was trying to open doors to maybe speak at events, or just helping people that were asking me to contribute, just to give them a boost if I could by sharing advice. Mm-hmm. So soon thereafter began to realize, maybe 2010, that the blog was the focus, and the blog was going to be link attraction and was going to build our authority to the point where I'd have a very strong position, even though the rank hasn't changed that much. We're still at the top for Chicago web design, Chicago WordPress web design, Chicago web development. Basically, we stay in business by attracting demand for the buyer-related keywords, people who need our help for services, which is web design, and it's really just Chicago. But the content marketing is absolutely the cornerstone and the only way to support that. But when I first started doing this, it wasn't really just about search. I wanted to keep in touch with people during a very long sales cycle. It takes like 2 months to decide who to hire to build your website. Mm-hmm. And during a very long buyer interval. People only buy a website like every 3 or 4 or 5 years. So I knew that content was going to be key for that, and I wanted to keep in touch with hundreds of people that I'd met in the past without having to reach out to them and call them somehow. So email marketing, blogging became the cornerstone for that. Then I realized that I could begin to rank for all these phrases that I was, not buyer-related phrases, but research-related phrases for all these topics. And then around probably 2012, I started to go very big on the content side. The CEO took over, and I built a sales team. So at that point, I doubled my frequency. I wrote a book. I started a conference. I started a monthly event, and I just put myself in this heavy, kind of program of better frequency, like every other week, which still isn't huge, but deeper content, trying to answer questions in big ways. Mm-hmm. And not long after that, began to go into research, started publishing an annual survey and publishing other research-related topics. Domain authority, according to Moz, starts to hit the 60s. Now it fluctuates in the high 60s, sometimes low 70s. Mm-hmm. And trying to just basically build a moat around these buyer-related phrases and grow the top line. We're at 70,000 visits a month by targeting all these other research-related phrases. And without content, put simply, content is what gets shared. It's what gets subscribed to, and it's what ranks. Mm-hmm. So my goal every time I publish is to make the best piece of content on the internet for that topic. That, combined with my network of people like you, content creators, and just other marketers out there, adds up to the right formula for lots of collaboration, lots of research, lots of publishing, lots of inbound links, ever-growing authority, ever-increasing number of key phrases. I don't think it's a mystery. I think that a lot of people can do it if they just understand how to connect the dots. But content done well, you can double traffic every year.
Yeah, and you said a lot of things there, and we're going to go back and unpack some of those. But I want to jump back to the fact that Orbit Media is a web design company, essentially. Mm-hmm. But you're teaching about content marketing and SEO and email marketing. And so is there ever confusion or conflict there? Or or maybe asked another way, this is something that I wish other companies did, right? You don't have to blog about what your service is.
Right.
And so can you help people understand and wrap their heads around that concept? So where is the parallel, and why does that work so well as a formula?
Sure. Well, I don't think that we could attract a big enough audience to win as the in our category if we just published about web design. I mean, marketing is an act of empathy. So stop and ask yourself: the people who you are trying to connect to, what do they care about? What problems are they trying to solve? Really, it's not the people who buy from us are not thinking about web design every day. They want to get performance from their site. They're trying to do a better job at digital in general. So the topics that they're thinking about are analytics, social media, automation. There's a search. There's tons of topics that are related. You have to basically go beyond. I mean, if you drew it as a target, you'd have your most competitive, most valuable key phrase, the buyer-related phrase, like the homepage, right? Mm-hmm. Then the service-related pages is the next ring around that. So the target was Chicago web design. Around that is like WordPress web design and e-commerce and all those phrases. Be But then that next ring on the target is actually huge. It's all the tertiary tangent-related phrases, anything that your audience might be asking that they might need help with. So I just can't imagine that the people who buy from us, a VP of marketing or a director of digital, would ever subscribe to a newsletter to get it every 2 weeks, web design advice. You just don't need it like that. So yeah, I mean, it's your content strategy should basically be totally based on the audience. And when you think about what their top questions are, their big concerns, it's not just that one thing that you sell. I mean, you've got to go broader than that if you want to grow in search, social, and email.
I'm going to guess you may send a serious amount of referrals to SEO companies or to marketing companies. Is that true? Do you get a lot of people coming in thinking that you offer those services and you have to send them elsewhere?
It's like almost daily. It's a lot.
You should charge for that.
Yeah, people often say that. I mean, it's people contact us and try to be referral partners and stuff like that. But it doesn't go against my mission, but the mission is to help people. And it doesn't, they call it sawdust, right? It's like, just why don't you sell that byproduct of all of your marketing?
Yeah.
I have friends who do it here locally, and I'm happy to help them because they're friends.
Yeah. And I was being a little hyperbolic there, but it did occur to me that you probably get a lot of... Sorry?
Yeah. Dan, it's very observant. You're exactly right. Companies like ours actually do create a ton of demand on those tangent topics.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, there is some confusion. People are like, what? Wait, why? I'm trying to hire you. Can't I hire you? I just want to hire you to do this thing. Like, actually, no, I'll give you all my best advice. I will teach you everything I know, but you can't exactly hire me for that.
Yeah. It's funny because you're probably creating and writing content at a higher quality about this stuff than so many other people out there, yet you're not offering that because you're sticking to your core thing, which is web design. I just find that to be a little ironic as well. But I want to move to a slide share that I found that you did of a recent presentation at Content Jam. This slide share is 188 pages. And I'm going to link to it in the show notes so everyone can check it out. But this is titled "Connecting the Dots: How Writers Can Use Data to Research and Rank." And I would like to go through some of maybe the top points in this deck here and talk to the listeners about how they can use research in their own content. So can you first kind of give us the introduction to what this presentation was all about?
Yeah. The research has a lot of aspects to it, but research as a format for publishing, like creating original research, is going to get you way better results than almost anything else you could publish because it's truly original, because it makes your website the primary source. because if anyone's talking about that topic and you support their message, their piece, then it's simply ethical for them to link to you, right? Research will win. So this is a study done by Moz and BuzzSumo, and I actually met at Content Jam the guy who wrote it, Steve Racing from BuzzSumo. Mm-hmm. He walked up to me, he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even know he was there." Freaked me out. "Oh great, I'm glad you liked that article." "Yeah, I was honored you mentioned it." They analyzed 1 million pieces of content and found that most content gets no links and very few shares. But the two things that buck the trend are strong opinion and original research. He didn't put it this way, but my theory is strong opinion leads to tons of shares. Original research leads to tons of links. So yeah, find the missing piece, find the missing statistic. Look around your industry, see what are people saying but not supporting with evidence. My big one that I've done is this blogger survey where I found out by asking 1,000 bloggers every year, 3 years in a row, how long does it take to write a blog post? And the answer is right now 3 hours and 15 minutes in 2016. And that's the average length of time to write a blog post. And my website is the source of that data. So, I mean, Wikipedia links to these pages. If you do this, you have literally added to your industry and contributed something to your field. I highly recommend that people look for ways to create and publish and promote original research on their websites if ranking and authority is an important thing for them.
Absolutely. And I want to get into how to actually do that. But I want to point out that I'm in Open Site Explorer and I'm looking at Orbit Media top pages. You have a crazy amount of blog posts with a lot of links. Like the drop off is very slow. So your homepage has 494 linking root domains according to Moz, but then your next piece of content alone has 93 linking root domains, 71, 65, 74, 62, 82. These are individual blog posts or pieces of content with that many websites. And I know Moz isn't complete, so there's probably a lot more than this, but I'm scrolling down the page, 23, 25, 11, 18. Is that what's going on here? Are you intentionally writing a lot of content and creating it because you know that it's original and link worthy?
Well, I mean, the goal in every case, if you're doing SEO, your goal in every case is to make one of the top 10 pages on the internet for that topic. If you're trying to rank number one, your actual goal, literally, not hyperbole, your goal is to make the best piece of content on the internet for that topic, whatever it is, quality-wise, empirically, your own view, right? You truly believe it. Now, what I've done is created content that's highly referenceable by me and by other people on certain topics. And then I have worked very hard to speak at conferences and raise my profile to where I get mentioned and people ask me to contribute to their things. So honestly, there's a chunk of those where I have referred to myself while contributing to other people's content. So someone says, "Hey, can you answer this question on my blog?" I have a very specific way of looking at and knowing which of my articles is almost ranking high. And I have this is a confession. This is a ninja, like black belt, like we're not going to tell everyone this, just between me and you. Okay. No one else will know, Dan.
Okay.
This is how I really do it.
Yeah.
I have a short list of 5 or 6 things that are almost ranking high, or things that are slowly starting to decline in rank, or things that are right outside the top 3. And this is my focus list. So when a blog asks me to contribute by answering a question, or can you, will you write something for us, or, what is your prediction for 2017? I will go back and look at my focus list, and I know exactly which of these needs a little bit of support. So I'm honestly doing lots of contributions, not really guest posting, but just contributing to roundups or being interviewed, where I'm strategically choosing or tactically choosing the things where it makes the biggest difference. But yeah, the quality has to be there first. And I'm each of these things, I could probably guess which one the top 10 are. One of them is my bio, because people just mention me, or I get included in like conference things if I'm speaking somewhere. But one of them is the book, which gets mentioned a lot. I put it in my standard bio. But a lot of those are things that I've mentioned, and a couple of those are actual, genuine, legit pieces of research.
Yeah, I call these things to my clients linkable assets, right? So you as a person who is out there speaking, and I try to encourage and work with my clients to have at least 1, ideally 3 or 4 of these strong linkable assets that just generate ongoing, repeatable links over and over and over again. So you just mentioned 2, yourself and a book. Are there any others besides content So content can be a linkable asset. Are there any others besides yourself in a book that you consider to be a linkable asset as well for Orbit Media?
Not on my site, but I've seen people do this by creating tools.
Yep.
You mentioned Open Site Explorer. How many links are there to that thing? That's an extreme example, but there's lots of examples like that, right? Where people create a tool, like a I don't know, a little programmatic thing that adds some value to someone. But yeah, these things are, we should all have something worth linking to. Dan, I've got a question for you. Have you ever tried to measure the conversion rate, of course, right? Or some people measure virality, like the percentage of people who saw a post and then shared it. Have you ever tried to measure the percentage of people who saw a piece of content and then linked to it? Is that a metric?
That's very interesting. I think you would I have not tried to measure that. I'm sure it's not hard to do, probably. Probably just look at the unique sessions over a certain period of time and then the links acquired over that period of time. However, it's not something I've tried to do, but I think that's a really interesting thing to think about is because if you're creating content where you're intentionally trying to make that content attract the link, I think it would be helpful to have that kind of ratio. That's a very interesting thing.
There's a number. And let's say you've got some things that it's like 1 in 10,000, which wouldn't be weird, right? Or some things are 1 in 2,000. Maybe that would inform. I mean, a lot of people do this for social sharing, right? Or I have a tactic where I measure the conversion rate from visitor into newsletter subscriber per blog post, which is fascinating. Some blog posts convert 1% of visitors into subscribers. Some blog posts convert 0. So as soon as you see that conversion rate from visitor into subscriber per piece of content, it changes your social strategy. You put those into heavy social rotation. But I wonder if we knew, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's a type of conversion, maybe.
Link rate?
The link rate, the mention rate. Yeah. If you knew that, maybe that would inform how you promote your content or what you're sharing or how you're doing outreach. I don't know. Maybe we should write about that.
This brings two things to mind that are deep in the back of my mind. I haven't thought about them for a little while, but one being, and it's something I really want to try to revisit more, is what I would call intent to link search queries. So people that are actually in the middle of writing something and do a search query that has a high correlation with the fact that they're actually finding something to link to. So somebody writing something about sales and then they're looking for cold calling statistics in Google. Right. That search is probably that person needing something to reference right in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think it would be fascinating and useful to kind of gather what all these types of queries might be to then let that inform the content creation as well. And the second thing I think is interesting is if you looked at Google's guidelines a while back, they said something about, this is like at the top of their web quality guidelines. They said you should create content that people will want to link to and use, or some share and use, or some fashion of that wording. And what I found really interesting about there was the fact they used the word use, which is they're saying you want to create use-worthy content. And then it led me to think of what all of the ways a person could use content. And I think linking to content is one, but also using content could be saving it and coming back to it repeatedly, or sharing it on social. And I haven't thought about this for a while, so I'm drawing a blank to what all of these ways you could use content are. Yeah. But it's similar to you saying that the link rate metric there. Like, how can you measure, of all the people that saw the content, are they using it in the way that you want them to? Yeah.
Well, I was asking because I want to measure that per piece of content in my body of work. But what you said is the next step on that, which is to analyze the link rate. We're starting to call it that now. We analyze that link rate for categories of phrases, for categories of keywords, which is way smarter because it's not retroactively deciding seeing what kind of worked and what didn't. You're actually engineering, which is a strong belief of mine, right? That's why I do research. You are building content with a specific outcome in mind. I'm designing this thing to perform in search. I'm designing this thing to perform in social. I wouldn't make a piece of content unless I have a plan, unless I know where, how and where and what kind of traction it's going to get.
Yep.
So that's I think that statistics related phrase is one. I'd love to noodle over what the other 5 might be. That is some ideas in this industry are just like, you just feel like it's an unfair advantage. Like, oh, if I do that, I'm going to feel like that's going to be so effective. I'm going to feel like I'm cheating.
Yeah. So, thanks for reverse interviewing me there for a second, but I am interviewing you. So let's flip it back over. So what I wanted to ask about, going back to the research part of it, was in your slide deck, you say there's 3 ways to produce research. What are those 3 ways?
Observation, aggregation, and survey was the other one that I used. Observation is picking a data set and looking at it and finding commonalities or just producing something from it, right? Like, let's say you analyze 10,000 phrases and you find that this category of phrase based on Open Site Explorer were the ones that were key phrases with link intent or something like that. Like, you're basically taking a data set and finding a commonality and drawing a trend and concluding something, doing some analysis. Aggregation is taking other people's content, other people's research, and just combining it and just saying, okay, I'm going to produce something that's more. One example, I saw this, like the Wikipedia page on who's the best president in U.S. history is a mashup of like 20 other surveys from different scholars and studies and other things. And they actually have a methodology that makes sense, and they put it together and they say these presidents are in the top quartile and these are in the bottom, whatever. So that's aggregation. In this slide deck, you can see examples of these that I've done. The survey one, though, I know that some people don't like surveys. I finally met Larry Kim in person. He hates surveys. But surveys are actually the only way to get certain types of insights, right? So you have to survey an audience to find out things to find information that would otherwise be inaccessible. For example, my annual blogger survey, I found out things like, when you create content, are you doing it during business hours, after hours, on weekends? And I have that data now, and I've published it, and I'm about to publish that one. And you can see the trend over the years. More people are doing the work of blogging in the office and during business hours. And then I draw a conclusion from that, and I end up being the primary source for some data point. That's a simple one. But that data is otherwise inaccessible. Survey is also very powerful for a content marketer, because if I get 1,000 bloggers to take my survey, who do I promote that survey to once it goes live? The 1,000 bloggers who took the survey.
Yeah.
You're collaborating with this audience. They're helping you, and you are sharing to them. The smartest formats for content actually build the list of people who will be interested in it while you create the content.
So you have one slide, and I'm not sure what the context of it is. It just says, find the missing stat. And so what does that slide mean? I'm assuming it's talking about finding the actual statistic or the thing to research about that's going to be successful. So talk to us about that.
So the missing stat, the idea of the missing stat is that every industry has something which is frequently asserted, but rarely supported. So in the example that I was giving earlier, in content marketing, people always say, blogging takes time. So, okay, great. But how much time does it take? No one had ever, that's a missing statistic. So how much time does it take to create a typical blog post? That data did not exist on the internet. There was a missing statistic in this industry. So the idea is that every industry has these. They are everywhere. Pick an industry, we could think about it in a few minutes, we'd come up with some statistic that no one had created before. If you create that statistic, now you have something that is eminently link-worthy, because anyone who talks about that topic, blogging takes time, you can support their argument, you can support their assertion, because you were the original source for that one missing supportive piece of evidence.
I love that tip. So for the listeners, no matter your industry or the industries of your clients or your employer, almost what you're doing there is you're being aware of this phrase that gets said without even thought behind it.
Yep.
And there's the insinuation of a metric, like the word time. So what I'm taking from that is to be aware of trying to hear for these things that people say. A great example that I saw last week was there's that quote about how our attention spans are like less than a goldfish now or something. And somebody actually went back and researched where the origin of that phrase came from. And where it came from did not originally ever mean, nor was there ever research saying that our attention spans are less than a goldfish. And so that's an example of maybe an opportunity for somebody in that field to do research to actually find out what our attention spans are. And so I thought that was a very interesting example of that.
So let's say you and I created that new piece of research, however it would, whatever the methodology, who would we share it with? We would go find 10 people who used that quote, and we'd promote it to them, right? Some of these things have an audience built right in.
Yeah.
And some of the smartest versions of this content, the audience that's built in, the audience that will be interested in it, is the prospect. So the most powerful missing statistics to find and produce and promote are the ones that support your sales message. So,
yes.
I don't know what the number is, but I could probably produce a number that says, 6 out of 10 website redesign projects fail. Or 90% of website redesign projects go over budget, or whatever that thing is. I'm just making these up, but I would have to be a somewhat rigorous methodology to be credible. But these are things that would support my sales process, that I could use while talking to clients. So
yes.
Anyone can produce missing stats that actually will maximize the closing rate, not just the conversion rate, the sales process if you're a service provider.
So when we're talking about doing research, I can already hear the voices of my clients in my head sometimes that they don't want to do that. Maybe it's too much work, or sometimes, unfortunately, they've hired an outside content team that doesn't do research, or they just write 800-word blog posts. So what are some things that you think we can use? What are ways we can convince or speak to getting businesses to actually go to this depth and use research?
Yeah, I'm spoiled, right? Because I'm not a marketing company. I don't have to convince people of these things. And when I give presentations and people say, "Oh, that sounds hard," I'm like, "Yep, but it's totally optional. You can let other people win if you want."
Yeah.
I'm kind of snarky about it because I don't have to convince people. I can just tell them that they can win or lose. It's up to them. But what I would probably do if I was an agency trying to convince someone to invest more or get serious about this would be to show them the results on competitors' websites. You can easily, it depends on their personality type. In fact, the real truth is that different personality types are influenced by different messages. So if your personality type of the person you're trying to convince is maybe an executive, a more dominant person, maybe a more competitive person, just show them how other people are winning. You get all your business from referrals. You don't care about search. Okay, let's see who does care. How many people every day are looking for this? Oh, who's ranking for that? Who's getting the visitor? Who's got the chance to convert? It's not you.
Yeah.
In this context, you are irrelevant. And that's the word. Irrelevant. They become irrelevant. People who choose not to play this sport that you and I play are actively and intentionally choosing irrelevance. That's how I describe it. You're not relevant. You're not there.
Yeah.
You are not on the board.
Yep.
So it's sometimes these tactics might work to just show them that company did this research. They're getting this traction. That company found these sound bites. They wrapped them up in an infographic. Look at the number of shares. This company produced this piece of research. All it was a map with a different phrase on every state. They made that using Google Trends in 15 minutes, this thing. And then this other thing, right? They're talking about, they don't see the return on the investment. So indicating how valuable the return would be is one way. The other way to convince someone of something is to show how the investment is lower than they thought. So if you can pull up ways to make the perceived expense of time and money in producing research lower, that can help. That aggregation example of where I produced the number that says how much money do marketers make? All I did was average out the marketing salary data on 2 different websites, and I produced a piece of research. It was only a couple of hours total.
So I love that tip, by the way, because showing them their competitors almost elicits this emotional, unconscious reaction, right? But the initial thought is to show them what the ROI might be. But what I'm often finding, and what you're alluding to, is that a lot of people are operating on emotion a lot more than we realize, and on that sort of competitive nature. So I think that's a great tip. It's something really important to think about when you're trying to motivate clients to do something. And I wanted to ask you, how long does a piece of research content? I know it's a very broad question. Some are probably quick, some are probably really intensive, but maybe tell us that scale. What's the simplest piece of research content take you to create, and how long does it take to create a really intensive based research piece of content?
Yeah, the simplest example that I had there was when I wanted to answer the question, what is a standard on a website? And so I just found a data set. This is observation. I found a data set. These are the top 50 websites according to some list. I think I found one on Alexa. And then I just hired like an assistant or an intern, paid them hourly to go look at those websites and tell me which of those websites had these 10 attributes. Logo in the top left, contact in the top right, they have a search bar. Then I published an article that showed are these web design standards or not. That time involved actually for me to create that was probably not much more than a normal article, which on average for me is 6 to 8 hours. But the results were much higher, probably 2 or 3 times as high. Actually, that's the one that, if you search for web design standards, that article outranks the W3C. I should show you the stats on that. It's ridiculous. That thing gets read like 200 times a day, actually. That one's off the charts.
Yeah, I think is that the one in your slide deck?
Yeah. I have a better slide. I have a more updated version than that. But yeah, there's analytics in there.
That'd be great. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes too.
Sure. The extreme example is the blogger survey, which is around 100 hours of outreach and writing, and that's 15 times the average expense for me, and it's one of my major content programs. The book is one, my annual event Content Jam is one, the blogger survey is one. These are things that I have built into my annual process, and I do them once a year.
Now, this blogger style one, though, is repeatable year after year, right? So you're getting ongoing, evergreen, and it's something Moz does too, is now everyone expects the ranking factors thing every year. So
I'm waiting for it, yep. So it gets more valuable over time because you see the trend, longitudinal data. But so that thing, maybe it's 15x. It might be 120 plus hours to create, but it's 50x the results.
Right. So 50x the results. And how are you measuring that? In traffic and revenue?
Benefits. Yeah. So what I did this time, so I'm almost done publishing it, and I know who wrote about it last time. BuzzSumo or Moz will show you, who's linked to this thing before. So even before it went live, which was yesterday, I reached out to a bunch of places that had covered it in the past. eMarketer, Oracle, Social Media Examiner, Copyblogger, and making them aware of it. Right now, as we speak, there are half a dozen major websites that are all writing about LinkedIn on their B2B blog is writing about this. It's when you're smart about it, it gets easier. If you publish a new version of something in the past, go to BuzzSumo, see everyone that shared the first one, share with them the second time. Go to BuzzSumo or Moz, see who linked to the first one, share it, make them aware of it the second time. So the benefits keep growing if you produce a valuable piece of annual research. So yeah, it gets traffic-wise, it might not be a massive home run. Blogger survey isn't a popular key phrase, but authority-wise, it's definitely 10 or 15 or 20x.
Makes sense. There's something in the slide deck that I do have to address quickly here. So you have a slide that is, and I know I sound a little doomsday-ish, but there is a positive at the end of it. You have a slide 72, and it says it's called Ego Bait. And then the next slide is a list of a whole bunch of people to reach out to. Now, we're in the marketing world. We've all seen these lists of, 100 marketers on Twitter and all these roundups. And I get these emails every week, and it's become exhausting. Just to be frank about, how people are just, going with these influencer lists. What's your thoughts on this? And is there a way to do this that won't annoy people?
Yeah. That example where I had 30 people or something all contributing to a post was on an article about tips for getting the most out of an event. So these are all people that I'd met at events, and they were adding to a giant article that I was working on for a year, collecting all my best advice about events, like wear comfortable shoes, sit in the front row, how to take notes, all this other stuff. So I've never done, and I'm not a fan of the bottomless roundup that just has 100 people in it. I think that is ridiculous. It might be effective, but it's all ego bait. If there's no analysis or value added, I don't know. I've never published one of those, and I don't like those things. I occasionally contribute to them. I'm doing it less and less. But if you look at the post where I had all those mentions, it's a giant article, even without those people, with all my best advice saved up over more than a year. The post that I like, and I kind of want to take a shower after hearing the word ego bait myself. I know that I use it, but it just doesn't feel great. But the kind that I like, the type of roundups that I like, are when you take 5 people and send them each 5 different questions, and then you get 5 different perspectives on each question. So like 5 questions for 5 analytics experts or 5 SEO experts. And if you ask 5 different people, like, so is duplicate content even a thing?
Oh, interesting.
Like, yeah, they may not even agree with each other. And you're going to actually learn a lot by reading that thing even yourself. Those huge things with 100 people in them, I'm positive that when people get those, they just hit Control F, look for their name, and then decide to share or not. Those are never, I don't see tons of social traction on those, despite the fact they were engineered for it. I think that the content creator should be adding value by curating things more deliberately and making these things kind of a quality piece rather than just a huge pile of Control F, here's copy paste, a bunch of people's quotes. It's pretty lame.
I love that example, and I want to just make sure the listeners caught that. So you're taking a topic or an opinion, and you're asking 5 or 6 different people in different roles how they all think of that one same thing. And so maybe to parallel that to something else, like if you're in the manufacturing space, you might ask the safety person, the design engineer, the electrical engineer. You might ask all those different roles how they feel about the same thing, and then you're going to get a really interesting piece of content where you're getting different perspectives. I like that. I'm already thinking of ways to apply that.
Yeah, you're like moderating a panel. If it was a live event, you'd be talking to different people, getting different perspectives on the same topic, and then you move on to the next topic. Another high quality way to produce what would otherwise be spammy feeling ego bait is to do an interview where you send someone one question, and when they respond, you send them a question based on their response.
It's almost just like delayed interview.
Yeah, it's an interview. It feels like a conversation, and that's what's missing from those super long posts, those mega roundups.
Yeah,
it just doesn't feel like it's like you could program a machine to do that. If we could build a program that makes content for you, you're probably not in a role that's very sustainable.
Yeah. So, and earlier I said I was kind of baiting you a little bit there as well to kind of defend that, because I don't want people to think that, it's just ego bait like this regular roundup thing. And I wanted to point out that Orbit Media has some great posts, and what I found fascinating was when I landed on them, it didn't occur to me that they were necessarily had other people's opinions in there, because it wasn't like 100 marketers answer, what they think about Panda. It was, this is the topic you're going to find value from. And then as I scrolled through it, I saw that you had brought in other people to add value, but it wasn't centered around the roundup facet of it.
Right. And I would encourage people to consider adding that as a standard in their publishing guidelines. Consider putting people into all of your articles. Reach out to someone who knows about that topic, ask them for a quick quote related to one of your points, and put them in there, put their face in there, put their name, their business, link to them if you feel it's appropriate. And it's going to add 3 things happen. One, yes, it is ego bait, and they're very likely to share it because an ally in creating content is an ally in promoting content. But the other thing that happens is your content just got better. It's higher quality, right? It's an insight you might not have thought of, or an angle on this topic that you might not have included. Mm-hmm. And third, you're going to have some fun. You're going to make friends. It's going to have more enjoyable, day by reaching out to people and collaborating with them, like we're doing now. Like blogging should not be like a solo thing. Like content, I feel bad for people that do this, right? I picture them in their basements with clammy hands and a box of empty box of pizza next to them. It's it should be the best part of marketing that I've ever had is what we're doing now. Just get out there and talk to people and collaborate with them. It's just way more fun.
I agree. Any networking I've done, I've always just thought of as building sort of, professional friendships.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
I love it. It's the best part.
And so I want to talk a little bit about opinion-based content. You mentioned that's one type of content that gets a lot of shares. you actually have some really useful questions to ask yourself if you're trying to come up with a list. You call it a list of opinions, that strong opinions. So what are some of these questions that can help people come up with what their opinions are that they can write about to get social shares?
Yeah, this is one of those, if research puts you outside your comfort zone in terms of the effort and length it takes to create, here you're going to get outside your comfort zone on your guts to produce something, because you're going to rub a couple people the wrong way if you do this properly. You're going to elicit strong response, or you should if it works well. Like, that's part of the idea, right? It's like comedians know that, like, they should be offensive in 5% of their jokes, right? That's how they know that they found that line, where they should be close to that line. Yeah. So strong opinion works like this. You can ask yourself, what do I believe will happen that most people would disagree with? Or what is the one thing in my industry that people are afraid to talk about? An example is I gave a presentation once where someone from the aquarium was there. We have a big aquarium in Chicago, the Shed Aquarium. And this woman came up afterwards. She's like, yeah, you're right. Like, this is a super important question, a popular question in my industry, but no one ever wants to ask it. And I don't know if I've got the guts to publish it. Are these animals happy?
Yeah.
The internet will thank you for that, right? If you put that out there, you're going to get, people want to know these things. Marcus Sheridan is the most famous for this, right? You could just call it like, he's all about like FAQ content, publish with they ask, you answer. But the thing, Marcus's genius is that he answers the tough questions, things like pricing, right? Things like, or people don't like to talk about this in my business. What's the lifespan of a website? I mentioned it right earlier, every 3, 4, 5 years. People don't really want to answer that question in this industry that much. So, but yeah, I listed 3. Dan, what was the other?
In your slide, it was. I believe is, what do you believe that most people would disagree with? Yeah. Yep. And I think sort of a twist to that question that I find helpful is just when or maybe not a question, but when I'm observing other content out there, what do I have a visceral reaction to? Right. Something I disagree with. So maybe just being aware of, or maybe going to BuzzSumo and typing in your keyword and seeing what content was really popular over the last 6 months, 12 months that maybe you disagree with. Yeah.
The way I did this on my site was one of the best examples is that post you mentioned at the top was 15 things to remove from your website. I think that PDFs have no place on websites. I think the press releases, it's crap.
Yeah.
Press releases do not belong on websites.
Yeah.
Social media icons in the header, that's stupid. Don't put social media icons in your header. The visitors will never come back.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got the email links should never be on a website. Okay, each of these things I'm putting out there as a stronger opinion, a little bit stronger than I actually mean it, because there may be exceptions to these things, and I'm using strong language like always and never.
Yeah.
But I do fundamentally believe in those things, right? There really shouldn't be email links on websites. That's a spam magnet, and you should have contact forms and track goals and analytics and everything else. But when I put that out there, like, I got comments on that thing. It's like, the guy in this video was so sanctimonious. Yeah, I piss people off a little bit, okay, because I'm making a strong case. I taught this in a session, and the woman afterwards came up and said, I just don't want to touch the third rail in these major social, civil issues. Like, it doesn't have to be your strong opinion might be about little things too. For example, I think the word solutions is just a dumb word to use in marketing. The only people who say solutions are people who are selling something.
Yeah.
It's a long word and it's a vague word. Good words are short and specific. Solutions is long and vague. Like, it's just a dumb, you should never use that word in your marketing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an exception. I'm being a little bit, snarky about it. But the point is that strong opinion on any topic, big or small, will elicit emotion and response. And that actually is what triggers shares.
Yeah, you should tell that PDF one to restaurants. They're always putting their menus online as PDFs.
Horrible.
So I want to circle back to, as we kind of tie things up here, the Orbit Media blog. And so we talked about, finding topics to write about, research, opinions, topics that acquire links. What else are we missing in sort of your formula, or the things that you applied to growing the traffic to the content portion of Orbit Media?
It's a great question, because we've missed something that's critical, which is the attributes of content that performs, there's some little mechanical detail type things that everyone should pay attention to. The headline needs to indicate a specific benefit. Ideally, a number if you can, a question if you can, curiosity if you can. But everything else will fail unless you make benefit-driven headlines. Like, be explicit about value. Never hit people with a wall of text. Use short paragraphs. Use subheaders, bullets, bolding, internal links. Like, you have to make your content very scannable. Leave white space. Use multiple images. There's sort of attributes. Content isn't written; it's assembled, and you have to build these things based on little blocks and pieces that will help it perform. You could take every piece of advice we gave in this last 55 minutes and miss this, and you'd be screwed, because if you don't put in those things, it's not going to go anywhere. So I think that there's kind of a checklisty thing, or one I've written, probably rank. It might rank web content checklist. Mm-hmm. This is the stuff that we all have to do and pay attention to, or else this stuff is just really not likely to go anywhere. These are not optional things. One last tip: if you write an article, you want to. Everyone knows when they write an article, they link to something else. Normal, natural, whatever. Everyone does that. Great marketers will actually link to a service page. Even smarter, right? Make sure you're guiding people downward through your funnel. But it's the all-time superstar pros that go back and find old content that references the topic, and they link from old stuff to new stuff. Mm-hmm. You're not done publishing a new article until you have linked to it from an old article. That's something, and you can use keyword-focused text in that link. It's a way to indicate relevance. It's a final place to use the key phrase. But I think a lot of people miss this. Consider that. You're not done publishing that new thing that just went live until you've gone back and found something old that mentions it and linked to the new thing from the old thing with the key phrase in the link. That's a really good tip. In fact, you do rank number one, at least for me, for web content checklist. So that is 21 ways to publish better content. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. So people can dive in more into that type of stuff, which we didn't quite have enough time to go over that in detail, but I think all the other stuff we did had a ton of value behind that. Mm-hmm. So a couple last quick things I wanted to ask you about. Orbit Media is a B Corp. What is that exactly? A benefit corporation. It's a small but growing movement of companies that have put into their charter social and environmental responsibility. So we want this, business can be a force for good. And to get that rating, you have to take a test or meet these criteria. You got to get an 80 out of 200 on this thing. It's actually quite hard to do. It's not like it's a real thing. Ben & Jerry's ice cream and Patagonia, these are big companies that are B Corps, but it's something that little companies can do too. It's also part of a community. You're part of an affinity group. If you meet someone who's also a B Corp, you're going to have an immediate connection. I think BBB is crap. Here's another strong opinion. The Better Business Bureau is just kind of a scam, I think. Like, you can be a really shady company and get an A+ in there. But B Corp, I think, is a legit thing that I'm pretty passionate about. Yeah, I like that. Let's finally tell the listeners, direct them anywhere you'd like them to go to your book or to places you might be speaking or your Twitter profile. Now's your chance to kind of plug any of that stuff. All my best advice is in the book. It's called Content Chemistry. The 4th edition is out now, or out on Monday. Will be out by the time this goes live. Search for Content Chemistry. If you get it off the Orbit site, you're buying it directly from the distributor. You can also buy it on Amazon, which is kind of becoming the Walmart of the web. Yeah. But yeah, that's where you get most of. Everything we discussed should be in there. And what's your Twitter profile again? My last name, Crestodina, at Crestodina. Excellent. So everyone say hi to Andy on Twitter, online. Check out the book. Check out Orbit Media. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and finally getting to meet you, even though I forgot that we sort of met a couple years ago. So thank you for your time. I appreciate that. This has been a really fantastic, insightful interview. Appreciate it. My pleasure, Dan. Thank you. Thank you.